Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Miriam. I love books, I love reading, and I love buying books as well. And in today's video, I have a haul to share. I have acquired several books throughout the last couple of months since my last haul, and I also have an exciting unboxing to share with you all. Some of the books are thrifted, some of them I just couldn't help myself and had to order, and we'll talk all about that. But before we get started, grab yourselves something comforting, a snack, a cozy beverage. This is probably one of my favorite book hauls to date. I am very, very excited for all of the books that I have to share, and there's a great mix of cozy books, some nonfiction, several by Elizabeth Gaskell, a Victorian series with dragons. There's just such a fun variety and I'm very excited to share. So let's just get to it. We're first going to start off with the Literary Book Club subscription box. This is actually the April box. They have just shifted from doing quarterly boxes to doing them monthly. But because I don't live in America, I'm not able to subscribe to the Literary Book Club subscription service. So what they do is make their boxes available on Etsy when they have enough after they've shipped out the boxes for the subscribers. And so I can just pick and choose whichever book box I'm interested in. Not every book is one that I would like to add to my collection. And I really like that you do know the book you're going to get with each box. And so with the April box, it is Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, and then a bunch of different goodies that suit the book, that have to do with the book in some way, or just goodies that fit the season, the month that we're in. So this being the April box, there are some very, very cozy things in it, and I'm very, very excited to share. I've already taken a look. I know what's inside, but I wanted to share with you all as well. And I've removed all the confetti. There was a lot of cardboard confetti, so it won't be as messy. There's just a little peek inside the box, and we'll go through each individual item. So there's just a little card with the title of the book, which of course is Cranford, and then on the back it just lists off all the items in the box, and every item is just wonderful. In some of the boxes, the items have little stickers on them that say open when you're on page 100 or whatever. You kind of open each item as you read through the story. But with this one, they didn't include that. It's just enjoy as you read the story, enjoy whenever you feel like it. And the first item here is this salted rosemary shortbread, and it is from Lark Fine Foods. I have never tried anything like this, but I am very, very excited to. I do love rosemary, and I think this would be really nice to have with some tea. But it is rosemary seasoned and lightly dusted with sea salt. Sounds delicious. I'm very excited to try that one. We were also given a tea bag, and this one is hibiscus rose. So it has hibiscus, rose hips, and cornflower petals, and that sounds so, so perfect for springtime. And I'm very excited to try this. It is from Tea with Tay. So very, very curious about this and excited to try it. If you're going to have tea, you need a teacup or a mug, and I am just obsessed with this mug that they sent. It is like a flower pot, but a mug. I'm obsessed with it. It says tea, flowers, and books. It is just beautiful, and I'm also obsessed with the color. I will be enjoying that tea and many, many more teas in this beautiful mug. It is just perfect for this time of year. I'm obsessed with it. We were also given this little sticker that says bookworm on it in the shape of a bow. I think that is so cute. And then this beautiful tote bag that says library books, and it has some beautiful blossoms on it. I am obsessed with this. It is, oh my goodness, it is perfect. It is from the Wildflowers Paper Company. I'll have to look into them because I do love a good tote bag. And this is just so, so perfect. It's quite a good size as well. I am obsessed with this. It is beautiful. A fun little surprise with this box is there are 2 books in it. And besides the main book, Cranford, we were also given the little book of Cottagecore, Traditional Skills for a Simpler Life by Emily Kent. And I love, love, love the cover. There's the back. I just think this is such a fun idea for this box, especially with it being April. When we were sent it, it's May now, but I just think this is so fun. It goes through gardening and beekeeping, tea time, baking, candle making, cross stitching, quilting, etc. I just think that is awesome, and I'm very, very excited about this as well. It's just beautiful. And last but not least is the wonderful Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell in this absolutely stunning Chiltern edition. I cannot get enough. I could stare at this all day. Oh my goodness. It has gold sprayed edges. Like this is just wow. I do have an edition of Cranford, but it is one of those very inexpensive paperbacks. And now I have this beautiful edition of a book by my favorite Victorian writer, and I'm just obsessed with this. It is absolutely beautiful. The paper quality is just incredible. Everything about this book. I'm obsessed. Speaking of Cranford and Elizabeth Gaskell, I recently received the wonderful collector's edition of 3 of the, I guess, adaptations of Elizabeth Gaskell's works. We have North and South, Wives and Daughters, and Cranford. And I got this as a gift from my sister, and the joy I felt when this arrived in the mail. And I watched the Cranford miniseries for the very first time with my mom in, I think, the beginning of May. It was very recent, but I watched it and it is just everything. It is so wonderful. I just fell in love with that miniseries. I think I love it just a little bit more than the North and South adaptation. Oh my goodness, it was perfection. I then read Wives and Daughters, or I had been reading Wives and Daughters in April, finished it in May, and then I watched the Wives and Daughters adaptation, and that was also just wonderful. But I have fallen even more in love with Elizabeth Gaskell's works because of these adaptations. They have brought these wonderful stories to life, and because I loved Cranford so much, my mom did too, I have to say, she was just in love. Because I loved Cranford so much, and I learned that the miniseries is not only based on Cranford, the book, but it's also based on a couple of shorter works by Gaskell, My Lady Ludlow and Mr. Harrison's Confessions. I had no idea going into the miniseries that was the case. These 2 novellas, I've had them on my TBR. I want to read everything Gaskell has written, but I am now even more excited to read them because of the way the storylines were, I guess, implemented into the Cranford miniseries and the way that the 3 plot lines kind of wove together. It was just perfection. All that to say, I had a hard time finding physical editions that I like of these 2 novellas, and I was just going to read them off of Project Gutenberg, Kindle, that sort of thing. But I decided to just get a couple print-on-demand copies because I know I like to write in my books, I like to highlight. Sometimes I'll annotate with tabs as well, and I don't really like doing that electronically or on Kindle. So I got a couple of these print-on-demand copies of Mr. Harrison's Confessions, and I do really like these covers, as well as My Lady Ludlow. And yeah, like they're fine. I mean, they're quite large compared to a regular book size, but I am fine with them. The font is okay, like the font size is totally fine. These are definitely more on the obscure side compared to Gaskell's main works, so I wasn't too picky about the edition, but I had to get physical editions of these 2 stories. My Lady Ludlow, I had heard, is kind of odd and just not as great as some of her other works. So I don't have the highest of expectations, but I was really, really fascinated by the character of Lady Ludlow in Cranford, so the miniseries. So I'm really, really curious about this one. And Mr. Harrison, or rather Dr. Harrison, I just loved his character so much and heard really great things about this one. That was a lot, but all of that to say, I am just so excited and I'm in just such a Gaskell kick. I also ordered a nonfiction work about Elizabeth Gaskell. That doesn't come until June because it is a used edition and it was shipped from England. So I am eagerly awaiting that because I really want to read it this summer. But I'm just in a, I don't know, Gaskell kind of cloud right now. I just want to read everything by her, but not enough time for that. But those are not the only 2 Elizabeth Gaskell books that I purchased. I also got Cousin Phyllis and Other Stories, and I am obsessed with that cover. I just think that is so beautiful. And so it's just a bunch of short stories, as well as something quite different, which is Gothic Tales. And I know I have read one of the stories in here. I think it's The Old Nurse's Tale or something like that. The Old Nurse's Story. And then there are several other stories in here. We have the Squire's Story, The Poor Clare, The Doom of the Griffiths, Lois the Witch, The Crooked Branch, Curious If True, and The Grey Woman. So that is Gothic Tales. Gonna save this one for the fall. And then in Cousin Phyllis and Other Stories, we have Lizzie Lee, which I've heard really great things about, Morton Hall, My French Master, Half a Lifetime Ago, The Manchester Marriage, which I have read, and Cousin Phyllis. So I'm very, very excited for this as well. But I just couldn't help myself. After watching the miniseries and reading Wives and Daughters, I just needed to continue to add to my Gaskell collection. So these 4 I had to get. I am so excited, especially with that new edition of Cranford as well. I just love Gaskell so much. So moving on from this gush fest about Elizabeth Gaskell, I do have several other books to share. I ended up purchasing an entire series, the Secrets of Ormdale series by Christina Bear. And the first book, Wormwood Abbey, I read this one last year with my friend Shannon from Old American Spirit. I overall enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but at the time I wasn't sure I wanted to continue with the series. I just wasn't as captivated by our main character. I wasn't as captivated by, I guess, the storyline and everything to do with this story. It is set in the late Victorian period with dragons in Yorkshire, and it is really fun. It's a really fun setup. But I didn't absolutely love the first book. But I decided to give the second book a try, and that is Drake Hall. And this one I will talk about in my May wrap-up because I did read it this month. And again, it's another book that I read with Shannon, and this one I fell in love with. I adored it so much. I loved every page. I read it on Kindle as well and just highlighted and laughed out loud and had such a fun time. And I know Shannon loved it as well. And I really wanted to get physical copies because I know that the rest of the series I will also be annotating, and I might go back and annotate these, just kind of copying what I annotated in Kindle onto these. It would take a very long time, but I might try to do that. But I loved Drake Hall, so I had to get books 3, 4, and 5. Book 3 is Castle of the Winds, and also Drake Hall is set in May, which was perfect. We read it in May. I love that kind of bookish serendipity. So with Castle of the Winds, this one is set in June, and we are planning on reading it in June, Shannon and I'm very excited. Because July is so busy with Jane Austen July, and I do want to focus more on that readathon, we're going to skip July but read book 4, which is City of Serpents, in August. And that is perfect because book 5, which is Valley of Dragons, opens in September. So then we will read this in September. And I love reading not only seasonally, but even monthly if I can. I do love that. So I'm so excited. This one is huge compared to the other ones though, but such a beautiful cover. All of these books have such beautiful covers. I am so excited about this series. I am so excited to continue it, especially with how much I loved the second book. And I have a feeling I will love books 3, 4, and 5 as well. So that is the Secrets of Ormdale series. Very much looking forward to continuing and completing this series, hopefully in the next few months. I've mentioned in a few videos now that I am currently reading Mrs. Tim of the Regiment by D.E. Stevenson, and I initially started this on Kindle and just fell so deeply in love with it. And I was actually gifted books 3 and 4 in this series by my lovely friend Jacqueline. And to complete the series, I ended up buying book 1, which is Mrs. Tim of the Regiment, and I'm so excited to have a physical copy. And this one is from the Bloomsbury Group publisher, I guess, and it is such a beautiful edition. This one is used, so a little worse for wear, but I'm very excited about this. And I also got book 2, which is Mrs. Tim Carries On. So book 2, 3, and 4 all come in the Furrowed Middlebrow edition. And I don't know why book 1 doesn't. So this is the only one that isn't in the same edition. But either way, I now have the full series. And I know once I finish Mrs. Tim of the Regiment, I will continue the series because I'm just loving it. I am loving our characters so much. Mrs. Tim is basically an officer's wife. Her husband's in the British Army. It's set in the interwar years. And it's just everything that their family gets up to, and it is epistolary as well. So it's her journal entries. I believe it starts in January and goes until June of the same year. And I am just loving every moment. I love this so much. I ended up getting 3 more books by D.E. Stevenson, and they are all used editions, which I love thrifting books, and they're in great condition as well. They're also all in the Furrowed Middlebrow edition, which I love. So the first one here is Spring Magic. Love that cover. And it says, young Frances Field arrives in a seaside village in Scotland, having escaped life treated as little more than a servant by her aunt. Once there, she encounters eccentric locals, the occasional roar of enemy planes overhead, and 3 army wives, Elise, Tommy, and Tilly, who become fast friends. Elise warns Frances of the discomforts of military life, but she's inclined to disregard the advice when she meets the charming Captain Guy Tarleton. I love that it's set in Scotland. I love that it's set in a seaside village, and I've heard wonderful things about this. I am so excited. We also have Charlotte Fairley, which I also love this cover so much. And this one says, Charlotte Fairley loves her position at the illustrious St. Elizabeth's, but it's not without its challenges. First among them, her troublemaking maths mistress, Miss Pinkerton, who yearns for Charlotte's job and spares no effort to complicate her life. Then there's the charming Lawrence Swain, headmaster of a nearby boys' school, who has plans of his own for Charlotte's future. But it's the arrival of Tessa McRyan, desperately homesick for the Scottish Isle of Targ and distraught about her parents' impending divorce, who really stirs things up, giving Miss Pinkerton fresh ammunition, helping the unfortunate Eastwoods, who cower beneath their father's snide, critical personality, and inspiring Charlotte to spend an unforgettable holiday on Targ. Adventures, pleasures, misunderstandings, and tragedies follow, told with D.E. Stevenson's inimitable sensitivity and humor, and Charlotte's loneliness is soon forgotten. So that is Charlotte Fairley. And then the final D.E. Stevenson book here is Anna and Her Daughters. And this one's also set in Scotland, which I love. And it says, for Anna Harcourt and her 3 daughters, lovely Helen, who always gets what she wants, young Jane, who makes the best of what she has, and Rosalie, the middle daughter, who wavers somewhere in between, the world is turned upside down by their father's death and the discovery that they will have to sell their London home. The girls are shocked when Anna buys a cottage in Riddleton, her hometown in Scotland, but they soon settle into Scottish life, each in her own way. As time passes, the 3 girls must contend with love and tragedy, hope and despair, laughter and tears, all unfolding in D.E. Stevenson's incomparable storytelling and knowledge of human nature. I'm very, very excited, and this one in particular I've heard fantastic things about, so very much looking forward to getting more into D.E. Stevenson. I have a feeling she will become a favorite author. I just haven't read enough by her, but I'm very excited to read more. I have a final little pile of books here that I got from a used bookstore when I went book shopping recently, and that is all in my recent reading vlog that I shared. The bookstore I went to, the books I also shared in that vlog, but I will also share them in this video. And they are a mix of classics and nonfiction, and I have a mystery in there as well. Very, very excited about these books. The first one here is Cousin Bette by Honoré de Balzac, and it is translated by Sylvia Raphael. I really know nothing about this book, and I know nothing about the author. I am very, very new to French literature in general, and I don't know if this is a good place to start with this author, but if you have read this book, let me know. I don't know if it'll be the book for me, but it is set in Paris in the 1830s and 40s. It is a complex tale of the devastating effects of violent jealousy and passion. It's also against the backdrop of post-Napoleonic France struggling with massive industrial and economic change. And Balzac's characters span many classes of society, from impoverished workers and wealthy courtesans to successful businessmen and official dignitaries. It also says there is a lot of ironic comedy, and I really don't know if this is going to be the book for me. I don't even know if this is a good translation, but do let me know if you have read this book and if you think it is worthwhile, if you think it's a good place to start with this author. It does say it is his last great novel, so I don't know, but I was very happy to find this for a very good price at a used bookstore. I couldn't pass it up, especially because I rarely find really good classics in the wild, so to speak, and it is an older Oxford World's Classics edition as well, which I actually really like these ones, so I'm happy about this find. I'm just not sure if I'll enjoy the book. I also got Daniel Deronda in this older Penguin Classics edition. I have an edition of this. It is hardcover and it's also antique, and it's basically falling apart. If I read from it, it will disintegrate, so I wanted to get a paperback of this book, and I know nothing about it other than there is a woman trapped in a very unhappy marriage, I believe. I think that's all that I have heard about this book. Just because with classics, especially big authors like Dickens and George Eliot and all of these authors, I try to not listen too much about plot points when people talk about the books, because I love to go into them knowing next to nothing. And it just usually makes the reading experience a lot more enjoyable for me personally. So I really know nothing about it, but it is a book I want to read. And I do love these older Penguin editions. Very excited about it. It's a bit of a chunker, but it was in great condition for being used as well. So that is Daniel Deronda. We also have Belinda by Mariah Edgeworth, and I'm not going to read the actual summary because, again, I like to know very little about books when I go into them. But at the bottom it says, it's a lively comedy challenging the conventions of courtship, examining questions of female independence, and exposing the limits of domesticity. I guess we'll see what I think about this one, but being a fan of Jane Austen and knowing that Jane Austen would have read Mariah Edgeworth, I need to read this book. Then we have Castle Richmond by Anthony Trollope, and when I shared this in the reading vlog, someone mentioned it's set during the famine in Ireland in the early 1800s, and I'm really intrigued. And it has a very long summary, but just the little bit at the top says it is the 1840s, the Great Potato Famine is raging in Ireland, starvation stalks the land, the workhouses are full, and soup kitchens aid the poor with a thin, barely digestible cornmeal pudding. Against this tragic backdrop, Anthony Trollope has set one of his most affecting chronicles of 19th century British manners and morals. It is a tale of passionate love and dark secrets, of the love of two men for the same woman, of a vast inheritance hanging in the balance. Very intrigued. I love Anthony Trollope. I am very excited to read this one. Then we have a mystery, and that is Sydney Chambers and the Shadow of Death by James Runcie. This is the first book in the Grantchester mystery series. There is also a TV show on this based on these books, and I'm curious about that show. Let me know if it's a good one to watch, but I do like to read books first before watching shows. So this one says, Sydney Chambers, the Vicar of Grantchester, is a 32-year-old clergyman with a difference. He is also a reluctant detective. Together with his roguish friend Inspector Geordie Keating, Sydney stumbles across a series of baffling cases. The suspect suicide of a Cambridge solicitor, a scandalous jewelry theft at a New Year's Eve's dinner party, the unexplained death of a well-known jazz promoter's daughter, and a shocking art forgery, the disclosure of which puts a close friend in danger. Sydney discovers that being a detective, like being a clergyman, means that you are never off duty. I've heard really great things about this series, and I do love this cover as well. Very intrigued. We also have Lady Almina and the Real Downton Abbey, The Lost Legacy of Highclere Castle by the Countess of Carnarvon. And this book is one that I'm very excited for. I am obsessed with Downton Abbey so much. And it says that Almina was the illegitimate daughter of a banking tycoon, Alfred de Rothschild. She was his only daughter and he doted on her. She married the 5th Earl of Carnarvon at 19 with an enormous dowry. At first, life at Highclere was a dizzying mix of sumptuous banquets for 500 and even the occasional royal visitor. Almina oversaw 80 members of staff, many of whom came from families who had worked at Highclere for generations. But when the First World War broke out, life at Highclere, both upstairs and downstairs, changed forever. History intervened, and Almina and the staff of Highclere were thrown into one of the most turbulent times of the last century. Almina was forced to draw on her deepest reserves of courage in order to ensure her family, the staff, and the castle survived. This is the remarkable story of a lost time. But Highclere remains, and in this book, Lady Carnarvon weaves Almina's journey and those of her family into the heritage and history of one of England's most exquisite Victorian stately homes. I am so excited to read this. I need to read this, and I need to visit Highclere Castle. I need to just fly to England, stay there for a few months, and visit all the significant literary and film locations, and one can dream, but this is one of those books that I am dying to read. I am so excited. Hopefully soon. Very excited for this. And last but not least, we have How to Be a Tudor, A Dawn to Dusk Guide to Everyday Life by Ruth Goodman. I really enjoyed her How to Be a Victorian book. I thought that was so fun. And Ruth Goodman, there is a term for what she is. It is a method historian. So it says, the Tudor era encompasses some of the greatest changes in our history. But while we know about the historical dramas of the times, most notably in the court of Henry VIII, what was life really like for the common people? To answer this question, the renowned method historian Ruth Goodman has slept, washed, and cooked as the Tudors did, so you don't have to. She is your expert guide to this fascinating era, drawing on years of practical historical study to show how our ancestors coped with everyday life, from how they slept to how they courted. Using a vast range of sources, she takes you back to the time when soot was used as toothpaste and the upper crust of bread was served to the wealthier members of the house, revealing what it all felt, smelt, and tasted like from morning until night. I know I will enjoy this one, especially with how much I enjoyed How to Be a Victorian, so very excited. So glad I found this beautiful edition as well. I am very happy with this find. So friends, those are the books I wanted to share. These are all the books I have recently acquired and am so excited for all of them. They all just bring me so much joy, and I would love to know if you've read any of the books I mentioned, what your thoughts were. Please do let me know. We can continue chatting about these books in the comments below. But friends, I hope you're all having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.